I'm 70 years old, and 3 years ago, I did something everyone said I was crazy for doing. I filed for divorce after 45 years of marriage, and it was the best decision I ever made. My name is Constance. I'm 70, and for 45 years, I was married to a man named Gerald. Everyone thought we had a perfect marriage. We looked good together, had a nice house, raised 3 successful children, never fought in public, never gave anyone a reason to think anything was wrong. But behind closed doors, I was dying, slowly erasing myself to be the wife Gerald wanted, the wife everyone expected me to be. And at 67, I finally had enough. I need to tell you this story because I see women doing what I did, making themselves smaller, quieter, less than, all to keep the peace, all to be good wives. And they think that's what marriage is supposed to be. They think sacrifice means disappearing, but it doesn't. And I wasted 45 years learning that. Let me take you back to 1975. I was 22 years old, just graduated from college with a degree in English. I wanted to be a writer, had notebooks full of stories and ideas, dreamed of moving to New York, getting a job at a magazine or publishing house, making a life in the literary world. I met Gerald at my cousin's wedding that summer. He was 25, had just finished law school, was about to start at a firm in Chicago. He was handsome, confident, successful, everything my parents wanted for me. We started dating. He'd drive 2 hours every weekend to see me, brought flowers, took me to nice restaurants, talked about his future, about being a partner at his firm, about the life he was building. After 3 months, he asked me to move to Chicago with him, said we'd get married, start our life together. I'd been applying to jobs in New York, but hadn't heard back from any yet. And Gerald was right there, offering security, offering a clear path forward. My parents were thrilled, said Gerald was a catch, that I'd be set for life, that writing was a nice hobby. But being a lawyer's wife was a real future, and I believed them. Thought I was making the smart choice. We got married in 1976. I was 23, moved to Chicago. Gerald started his job, and I started looking for work. But Gerald said I didn't need to work, that his salary was enough, that I should focus on making our apartment a home, setting up our life. So that's what I did. I stopped applying for jobs, stopped writing, focused on being a good wife, cooking, cleaning, supporting Gerald's career. That's what wives did. That's what I was supposed to do. Gerald worked long hours, would come home exhausted, want dinner ready, want the house quiet, want me to listen to him talk about his day, but never ask about mine, because what did I do all day anyway besides stay home? I started to feel small, like I was shrinking. But I pushed that feeling down, told myself I was being a good wife, being supportive. This was my job now. We had our first child in 1978, a son, Andrew. Gerald was happy to have a son, said he'd raise him to be a lawyer like him. I was happy to finally have something to do, someone who needed me. But Gerald had rules about raising Andrew, about what he could eat and when he could sleep and how I should discipline him. And if I did things differently, Gerald would get angry, say I was undermining him, say he was the head of the household and I needed to follow his lead. So I did. I raised Andrew the way Gerald wanted, even when I disagreed, even when I thought he was wrong, because that's what good wives did. They deferred to their husbands. We had our daughter Emma in 1980, then our youngest son, Peter, in 1983, and my whole world became taking care of them and managing the house and supporting Gerald's career. I had no time for myself, no space to think about who I was beyond wife and mother. Gerald's career took off. He made partner at 35. We moved to a bigger house in the suburbs, had nice cars, belonged to the country club. From the outside, we looked perfect, but I felt invisible. Gerald made all the decisions about money, about the kids' schools, about where we lived, about how we spent our time. I was just expected to go along with everything, and I did, because I didn't think I had a choice. When I tried to voice opinions, Gerald would talk over me, dismiss me, tell me I didn't understand how things worked, that he was the one making the money so he got to decide. And I'd shut up, swallow my words, make myself smaller. The years passed. I'd wake up every morning and go through the same routine, make breakfast, clean the house, run errands, make dinner, wait for Gerald to come home, listen to him talk, go to bed, repeat, day after day, year after year. My life became this endless cycle of serving everyone else while slowly forgetting who I was. I'd see my old college friends sometimes, women who'd pursued careers, who'd traveled, who'd built lives that were theirs, and I'd feel this ache, this longing for something I'd given up, but I'd push it down, tell myself I'd made my choice, that this was my life now. The kids grew up. Andrew became a lawyer, like Gerald wanted. Emma became a doctor. Peter went into business. They all moved away, started their own lives, visited on holidays, called occasionally, and suddenly it was just me and Gerald in a big empty house. I thought maybe we'd reconnect, finally have time for each other, build the relationship we'd never really had because we'd been too busy raising kids and building his career. But Gerald didn't want to spend time with me. He had his work, his golf, his friends from the firm. His life was full, and I wasn't really part of it. I was just the woman who kept his house running. I started feeling like I was disappearing completely, like I'd erased myself so thoroughly over 40 years that there was nothing left. I'd look in the mirror and not recognize the woman looking back. Where did Constance go? The girl who wanted to write, who had dreams and ideas and a voice. What happened to her? I tried talking to Gerald about it, told him I felt lost, that I wanted to do something for myself, maybe take a writing class, maybe volunteer somewhere, something that was mine. He said I was being dramatic, that I had a good life. What did I have to complain about? Nice house, financial security, grandchildren on the way. What more did I want? But I wanted to matter, to be seen, to be more than just the invisible woman who managed his life. And he couldn't understand that, didn't want to understand that. I started writing again in secret, just for myself, short stories, essays, pouring everything I'd been holding in for 40 years onto the page, and it felt like coming back to life, like finding a piece of myself I thought was dead. I joined a writing group at the library, met other women my age, some married, some divorced, some never married, and we'd share our work and talk about our lives. And I realized how small my life had become, how much I'd given up, how little I'd asked. For in return, one woman in the group, Sandra, had gotten divorced at 60. She talked about how scary it was, but also how free she felt, how she'd spent 35 years in a marriage where she was invisible, and leaving had been like taking her first real breath. I thought about that constantly, about leaving, about starting over, about finally living for myself. But I was terrified. I was 65 years old. What would I do? Where would I go? What would people think? How would I support myself? Would my kids ever forgive me? Then something happened that changed everything. My mother died. She was 89, had been married to my father for 65 years. At her funeral, my father stood up and gave a speech about what a wonderful wife she'd been, how she'd supported him, how she'd sacrificed for their family, how she'd never complained, how she'd made his life possible. And I looked at my mother in that casket and I thought, is that it? Is that all she gets? 89 years of life, and her eulogy is about how well she served other people. What about what she wanted? What about her dreams? Did she even have any, or did she erase herself so completely that there was nothing left? I didn't want that to be my eulogy. Didn't want to die having never lived for myself, having spent my entire life being what other people needed me to be. I went home after the funeral and I told Gerald I wanted a divorce. He thought I was joking, then thought I was having some kind of breakdown, then got angry, asked what he'd done wrong, said he'd been a good husband, good provider, given me everything, and I said that was the problem. He'd given me everything except what I actually needed, to be seen, to be heard, to be treated like a person instead of a support system, to have my own life instead of just supporting his. He said I was being selfish, that I was throwing away 45 years over nothing, that I was too old to start over, that nobody would understand, that the kids would be devastated, that I was having a midlife crisis or menopause was making me irrational. But I didn't care anymore. I was 67 years old and I'd spent 45 years making myself smaller for him. I wasn't doing it anymore. I filed for divorce, hired a lawyer, started the process, moved into a small apartment while we figured out the details, and everyone thought I'd lost my mind. My kids were shocked, called me crying, asking why, asking what Dad had done. I tried to explain, but they didn't understand at first. My friends were confused. People at church whispered about me. Gerald's family said I'd betrayed him, said I was abandoning him in his old age after he'd given me everything. But I felt lighter than I had in decades, like I could finally breathe, like I was finally allowed to be a person again instead of just a role. The divorce took a year. Gerald fought me on everything, made it as difficult as possible, tried to paint me as unstable, tried to minimize what I was entitled to. His lawyers were ruthless, but I had a good lawyer too, and I didn't back down. And in 2022, at 68 years old, the divorce was final. I was finally free. I'm 70 now. I live alone in my small apartment. I write every day. Real writing. I've even had a few pieces published in small literary magazines. I take classes. I have friends who actually know me, who care about what I think and feel, who see me as a whole person. I volunteer at a literacy center teaching adults to read. I travel when I want to. Last year, I went to Italy by myself, something I dreamed about for 40 years. I make my own decisions about my own life, choose how to spend my time, choose what matters to me. My kids have come around. It took time, but they understand now why I left. They'd seen how small I'd become, how invisible. They just didn't realize how bad it was until I was out. Andrew told me recently that he's trying to make sure his wife doesn't feel the way I felt. Emma said, watching me leave gave her courage to set boundaries in her own marriage. Peter said he's proud of me for choosing myself. Gerald remarried last year, found another woman to make small, to erase, to mold into what he needs. I feel sorry for her, but it's not my problem anymore. People still ask if I regret it, if I wish I'd stayed, if I'm lonely, and I tell them no. I'd rather be alone and whole than partnered and erased. I'd rather have 2 years of real life than 45 more years of pretending. I'm not lonely. I'm finally myself. And that's better than any marriage where I have to disappear. I wasted 45 years being the good wife, being quiet, being small, being what everyone else needed. And I'll never get those years back. But I have whatever time I have left. And I'm not wasting another second of it. If you're in a marriage where you're disappearing, where you're making yourself smaller and smaller to fit into what your partner needs, leave. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how long you've been married. I don't care what people will think. Leave. Because you only get one life. And spending it erased is not living. It's just existing. And you deserve more than that. I'm 70, And I filed for divorce at 67 after 45 years of being the good wife. And I finally got to be Constance again. Subscribe if you needed permission to choose yourself.